So I'll start recording this session now. Okay, so before we officially jump in, I'm going to invite you to, in the chat, answer my 2 joke questions. So you can just do like type in 1 and then your answer, and then number 2, type in your answer. So number 1, why can't you trust an atom? And then number 2, why couldn't Cinderella play soccer? So I'll give you about 30 seconds to go ahead and do that. Let me put that on my timer. Time starts now. Go ahead and enter your answers in the chat. So just type in number 1 and whatever you think the answer is, and then number 2 and whatever you believe the answer to be. Go ahead and type your answers to my jokes in the chat. All right, there's my lovely little alarm. So thank you so much for Melinda and Yvette for participating. So Melinda, because they're likely to split, and Yvette, too small. Sandy, she's wearing glass slippers. Nice, nice work, love it. So number 1, why can't you trust an atom? Because they make up everything, haha. And then number 2, why couldn't Cinderella play soccer? Because she was always leaving the ball. All right, my name's Alexa. I am a former elementary educator. This is actually my 2nd back to school season not in the classroom. So it's a very unique time not to be in the classroom. I taught 6th grade, 4th grade, and a kindergarten dual immersion program. So I am excited to share with you the ways that I've utilized Newsela in my classroom, and I'm hoping that you find them useful for you. This is going to be our agenda today. We're going to talk about what inquiry is, the C3 inquiry framework, and then we're going to do like a little I Spy. I'm going to show you where in Newsela you could possibly find content to support inquiry learning, and we're going to dive into like a little mini experience. So we have a jam-packed agenda, but this is going to be based on your comfort level and where you're at. So I'm going to invite you to engage with me in these 3 ways. So number 1, if you have Twitter or if you have a notepad next to you, however you learn best, I want to invite you to go ahead and do that. But the number 1 thing is that I'm asking you to engage with me. So since it's virtual, the biggest way to do that is to share in the chat. So I'll prompt you when I'm going to ask you a question, and my hope is that you respond to me so that we can engage with each other. Second, I'm going to invite you to be intentional. So we're not going to get these minutes back. I know this is a big, big week for you all. So I want to invite you to be intentional with this time. Everything that I share with you is obviously going to be through my filter and my lens. So I want to invite you to consider, okay, in what she's showing, how would this apply to my students and the context of my learners? And then I invite you to leave better than you came. So whenever we give our students an opportunity to learn, we always ask them to show what they know, right? So I want to invite you to consider, how will your new students know that you learned something new from our time together? Before I jump into this, I'm going to go ahead and ask you a question. I'm going to launch a poll. All right, go ahead. I just launched a poll on Newsela. The question is, how comfortable are you with Newsela? Okay, yes. So for my few friends that I made panelists, don't worry. We do have like about 20 new friends that just joined us, so they are participating. But Roberto and Maya, I believe you're the only ones that need to have your video on. Is that correct?
Roberto and Beth.
Roberto and Beth. Brain mess up. Okay, perfect. But you only need to have your videos on, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I can probably, well.
And Janae, because we need to see Janae.
Janae, okay. why don't we, so for my friends that I promoted to panelists when we first started the session, I'm sorry, you can't participate, but you can participate in the chat. That is the other option. So my question that I launched in the poll is, how comfortable are you with Newsela? So if you're unable to vote, which is my fault because I promoted you to Newsela, or promoted you to panelists, would be like, what is Newsela? If you have no idea what it is. I've tried it, but I need to learn more. Or like, I could teach my colleagues how to do it. Maya, thank you. Let me find you here, and then I'll go ahead and do that. Okay. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Amy Lee, love that. What is Newsela? I've logged in, but that's about it. I've tried it, but need to learn more. Great. Okay, so I have the bulk of people either have never encountered Newsela before or would have heard of it, but need to learn a lot more about it. So this is really great for me to know. Okay. All right, friends, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to end my poll now. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pivot to make sure that I go ahead and address all those answers that I just received. So number one, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to switch things up. So I'm going to invite you to first go to newsela.com. I know that it's your district day. I was told that you are logging in to Newsela from Clever, and then you are creating assignments on Google Classroom. So I know like some teachers use a variety of methods, but I just want to go ahead and share that. So you're going to log into newsela.com, and then we're going to do a little I Spy situation here. Okay, so I'm going to invite you to go ahead, hop onto Newsela. I'm going to give you 1 minute to just poke around on Newsela before I start defining what it is. Okay. So Sandy, I don't have the link to the slides shared yet, but I did share the agenda. So I'll share that again with you all. I just shared an agenda. You're welcome, Sandy. Okay, so everyone, if you can please log into Newsela, I'm going to give us 1 minute. We're going to go ahead and explore before we start jumping into inquiry. We can't really move on until you guys know and feel comfortable with Newsela, right? So we're going to back up a little bit. Time starts now. Poke around. Let me know what you see. About 22 seconds left. Go ahead, poke around. I'm going to invite you to go ahead and drop your answers in the chat. So if you find something, go ahead and let me know. So if you just logged on, we're doing an I Spy. Time is up now. Okay. All right, friends. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen really quick. I'm going to invite you all to please share in the chat. What did you discover on Newsela? Christine, distance learning. Kara, text sets on history. Jennifer, text sets on for teachers. Fabulous. Awesome. Okay. Interesting election 2020 section. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now. Thank you so much for your participation. We're going to dive into what Newsela is. Okay. I got a couple more chats. Let me do my best to answer those. Okay. So what we are going to do right now. So Jennifer, I'm not sure if you just logged on. We were just looking on Newsela to see what it is. So with that said, I also want to preface, we have a lot of people here now, about 50 people, and there's only one of me. So I'm going to try my very best to get to all of your chat questions, but give me a little bit of grace as I do that. we are doing an inquiry session, but the bulk of us have not really interacted with Newsela before. So we can't move forward until we address what Newsela is, right? So that's what we're doing right now. So what Newsela is an instructional content platform. What that means is that we acquire content from the world's most trusted content providers, and then we level it at 5 different reading levels for students. We're publishing fresh content every single day. You can discover that content underneath latest news. So I'm on the home page. So if you go to latest news, you're going to get to discover all of our new content. We also have about 20 to 25% of our content available in Spanish. And so you're going to see that below here. Okay. We are also publishing fiction content now. We're publishing videos, and you're going to get to discover some of that like sprinkled around in Newsela. And some of you already got to discover some really neat things. So now with that said, knowing that Newsela is an instructional content platform, we publish content at 5 different reading levels for students. I'm going to show you where to go find content, okay? So to begin, when I'm on the home page, if I'm looking for Spanish content, I'm going to scroll all the way down. The neat thing about our Spanish content is that it's also available at 5 different reading levels. Text sets are going to be groups of articles around a particular theme or topic. And these are things that you as a teacher can make. If your students use the Newsela app, they can use it too. And also Newsela staff creates text sets. So you can kind of consider like right here, mindfulness and stress management. All of the articles there will be about mindfulness and stress management. So students have choice in what they want to read in regards to that topic. If you're thinking about routines, if you look off to the side, explore good news, something that I did in my classroom, I had my kids log into Newsela every single day and go to this good news section. They would pick one article to read about, and then they would share it out. So if you're doing digital learning, as you all are, this would be something you would share on a digital platform on a virtual meeting. So this was a practice we engaged with every morning, and it just set the tone of every morning we're looking for the good. So I encourage you, if that resonated with your practice, go ahead and take that with you. Also, you're going to get to discover all of our announcements, what's going on in the life and the world of Newsela right here. Okay. All right. I have a few more questions. Let me see if I can answer that. Okay. Does it have captions on Newsela for deaf students? Great question. We do have accessibility features that have to be turned on. Janae, I'll make sure to get that information to you, okay? Are articles available with the captions? In Spanish. We have articles in Spanish, Ricardo, yes. Okay, friends. Also, for my friends in the chat, if you can make sure that where it says to, it says all panelists and attendees. That way everyone can see your question, so everyone knows what we're talking about. Okay. We talked about the home page. Cool. Where else can you go to find content? Let's talk about that. So first, you can discover content under the library section. This is going to be a place that you're going to go to access background information. So if you consider like how we would go to the library to like find out more information about a particular topic, you can consider Newsela's library in the same way. This is going to be a place you're going to go to get more information about a variety of topics, and you can discover those topics on the left-hand side. So pardon my Wi-Fi is not being very friendly, so it'll be a little latent, pardon me, but you can discover those topics here on the left-hand side. Where else can you find content? Well, the news section. So Newsela's news section is a place you're going to go to discover current events broken apart by categories. Think of this as like the digital newspaper for students, okay? This is going to be a place that you can go to access if you do like a news reporter routine in your classroom. This might be a place that you might utilize. Has anyone ever heard of Kid News? I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the chat. For those of you that just joined, I'm a former teacher. This is my second year not in the classroom. So I'm going to be sharing some teacher tips with you all. Right now, what I'm sharing is a free 5-minute podcast that I used in my classroom called Kid News. It provides like a 5-minute overview of like what were the top stories of the day. Why am I sharing this with you? And thinking about routines and going back to school, You might have your students listen to this podcast. There's also like a 5-question multiple choice oral assessment that they give at the end of the podcast, which is really great to build listening and speaking skills. We would preview that podcast, and then I would task my students with going in the news section and finding one article that was mentioned in that daily newscast. So since Newsela publishes current events and Kid News is a current events podcast, my students always found content, okay? Hope that sticks with you. If it didn't, feel free to let it go. Another place to go ahead and discover is Election 2020. So if you're looking to teach your students about the election, the policy issues, the candidates involved, then Election 2020 is going to be the place you're going to check out. You're also going to notice we're going to have a student poll, so students can engage in civic responsibility. We're also going to be having some videos available for you. These are short videos that are going to support teaching about the election, policy issues, etc. I'm just scrolling down so you can see what's available. Okay, so if you go to the left-hand side right here, you're going to be able to find more content here. And we're going to talk about this section in a moment. Distance learning. This is another place you can go to find content about distance learning. So if you're looking to, let's say, support elementary students, on the left-hand side, click Elementary Daily Lessons. Why would you do this? Well, we've gone ahead and created about 12 weeks worth of content each day of the week for every subject area. What do you mean by that? Well, I'm going to go ahead and click into week 2, for instance. And we've created, this is a PDF that you can send home, but we've created content for each subject area. We're always going to have a focus. And each day of the week, you're going to have an activity that students can engage in. So in thinking about back to school and like activities to engage students with, you might utilize these as is or take them as inspiration and tweak them to your liking. But we've created this to support you in your work. So it's for 12 weeks. The final week is like a wrap-up week. And let me go back so I can go ahead and show you what that looks like. So for instance, if I go to week 9, this is just an example. This is what it looks like on Newsela. Off to the left, you'll see you have your 5 days. And then you're gonna get to see like the directions here, content to support those directions. If you love what you see, you can click the day. If you love everything, just copy it, like by clicking and dragging. Go to create assignment, and then you would go ahead and paste it. And you can delete it, add on, etc. You are gonna click that blue assign button when you're ready to go, okay? So we talked about what Newsela is, instructional content platform. We talked about that we have content under the library, the news, Election 2020, and distance learning. Where else can you go to find content? Well, you can go to search. If you click that magnifying glass, you can type in a keyword that you care most about, or just click search. When you do that, you're going to be met with a variety of content. I'm going to scroll down so you get a little preview. So you can also search by text sets. So those are going to be groups of articles around a particular theme or topic. So for instance, if you're looking for latest fiction published on Newsela, you can explore that text set. So this is like an example. All it is, it's just a bunch of articles that we've grouped together for you. You can make directions and add links, etc. But we have like a little starting place for you. Also under videos, you're going to get to see our growing library of videos available. We don't have that much yet because we just started doing this, but that's available for you. Now, when you discover something you love, if you see this bookmark right here, you're going to click that. When you do that, it's going to live under your content. So hover over your content, go to Save by You, and you're going to be able to find what you saved. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my chat really quick. I'm not quite sure who Ricardo is, Christine, but if you log in through Clever, you should be able to access your account. If you cannot, Christine, go ahead and send me an email with your information, and I'll be sure to go ahead and support you with that. Okay, friends. So with that said, again, we're quickly covering Newsela, and then we're going to talk about inquiry for a little bit because the most of us don't know what Newsela is. So What else can you do on Newsela? I'm going to go ahead and just click into this article. I'm just going to go ahead and show you. So if you go to the right-hand side, you see that right here, every article, let me zoom out, has 5 different reading levels. Now, when you allow your students the opportunity to take 7 quizzes on Newsela, you can find those by clicking Activities, going to Quiz. When you let your kids take about 7 of these quizzes, so they're going to have to read 7 different articles, we at Newsela automatically level your students. So when you make an assignment, the content's already at their just right reading level. You don't need to do anything, okay? Also, I encourage you to keep letting them take quizzes so that we keep leveling them throughout the year. Also, every article is going to have a write prompt. You can customize it and you can edit it as you wish, or just use what comes on the article. You're also going to have the ability to click, drag, and release, and then activate a highlighter tool. When you do that, you can embed questions that you can share with your students. Students will then have access to that content at that reading level. If I go to a different reading level, notice it's gone. So in order to make sure all my kids have access to that content, I want to make sure I'm providing annotations at different reading levels. So just click, drag, and release, and then you're going to activate that, okay? Students will then be able to respond to you. Another thing to point out is that we do have the ability to have the text read aloud to students. So click the read aloud.
Negligence provoked and deadly Beirut blast amid public anger.
And we also have other accessibility features available that I can go ahead and send support information post-session. If you want to go ahead and add this to a text set, click add to text set, and you can create like a bunch of articles around a theme or topic yourself. All right, that is a quick overview of what Newsela is. I'm going to go ahead and jump into, let's see. I'm going to answer a couple questions here. So Jennifer, how do we set this up for our students' grade level student accounts? So Jennifer, all the support that you need, and not just Jennifer, everybody on here, if you have any questions about setting up accounts, it's going to be under support. I'll share that information with you. I also shared this agenda earlier in the session. I'll share it again. I'm gonna have a little link to show you like, how do you log on to Newsela through Clever? And then you're gonna have also support links below, like to learn more on the Educator Center. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then Kara, and she asked about daily lessons. So the daily lessons was under distance learning, and you're gonna click elementary. Okay, friends, I'm gonna go ahead and move on now, just because I wanna make sure we touch on inquiry. So for those of us that are in this session, this is supposed to be an inquiry session. Can I just get a pulse? Do you feel comfortable moving on to talk about inquiry a little bit? Or do you feel like I can't at all move on because I really am super confused with Newsela? Okay, so America, yes, yes, yes. Okay, great. We feel comfortable moving on. Fabulous, thank you so much. Okay, let me get out of this. I'm gonna go back to my deck and we're gonna keep moving on. So let me turn on my captions. Okay, cool. So we're gonna jump into inquiry now that we know what Newsela is, okay? Or we have a good idea of what it is anyways. So what is inquiry? This is pulled from a journal from the Ontario Ministry of Education, and I thought that it just stated inquiry so beautifully. It explains that inquiry-based learning is an approach to teaching and learning that places students, questions, ideas, and observations at the center of a learning experience. Educators play an active role throughout the process by establishing a culture where ideas are respectfully challenged, tested, redefined, and viewed as improvable, moving students from a position of wondering to a position of enacted understanding and further questioning. I think this just explains what inquiry-based learning is so nicely. The idea is we want to get our students hooked with wonder. We know that curiosity really creates deep learning moments for students, but then we need to move them from wonder to the ability to question properly, okay? These are also on your agenda, these infographics. These are from Sylvia Duckworth and Trevor McKenzie. So these are 10 reasons for inquiry-based learning. Because of time, I'm going to ask you to take this in and then just pick one reason that kind of like resonated with you, okay? I'll give you about 20 seconds. Time starts now. Okay, so time is up. I asked you to just take a look at this and just think of one reason that kind of stayed with you. For me, when I look at this, right where it says inquiry classroom in the middle, that's purple, why is this important to you? That really sticks with me. I want my students to understand, like, why is it important to them? Like, why are we even learning? Because if they don't even understand why we're learning, I've already missed the boat on a learning experience. Again, I'm going to invite you to do the same thing. I'm going to give you 20 seconds. Take a look at this infographic and consider, are any of these ideas something that you're like, I want to try this in my classroom? Go. Okay. So I just wanted you to take a look at this and then consider what stayed with me. For me, when I take a look at this off to the bottom right-hand corner, how can I make an impact? That really stays with me. How can I help create projects and learning experiences that encourages my students or allows them to have an impact towards others, a positive one at that? So let's talk about the C3 inquiry framework. So the framework process, the inquiry process, again, this is another infographic from Trevor McKinsey, but the main components are to develop and question, and then you're going to apply disciplinary concepts and tools to a learning experience. It's going to call for students to evaluate sources, communicate conclusions, and then do something with that or take informed action. So I love how this starts with like those 4 pillars, which are off to the left-hand side. Those are the 4 pillars of the inquiry process. And then it starts with like, what's my essential question? What am I going to do about it? I need to learn how to do something about it. That means collecting evidence. I need to create something, and then I'm going to share my findings with others. So we kind of did an I Spy. So we're going to go ahead and skip that piece. But we're going to go ahead and jump into where you can find some content to support inquiry within Newsela. And that's going to be within the Newsela library section, the opinion section. One thing that I love, and I wanted to share this, is that when we're creating compelling questions, they need to be worth investigating from an academic angle, but they also need to be worth exploring from a student angle. So that is like something we need to keep top of mind as educators. How can we find content that's going to be definitely worth it for our standards and to accomplish the curriculum goals we have, but how is it also going to be engaging for our students? So I'm going to get out of Newsela at this point again, my deck, and go into Newsela. And I'm going to go ahead and go large again. Here we go. I'm going to invite you to consider, in Newsela, I'm going to go to library, and I'm going to go to the opinion section. So the opinion section is going to live on the left-hand side, and I'm just going to find opinion and then access it. So that's going to be right here. I'll share this in the chat so it's easily accessible as well. I'm going to go ahead and give you 1 minute. Just take a look at that. That's it. Just let it digest. If you find something cool, share it out. 1 minute starts now. About 15 seconds. If you find something or just want to share something in the chat, feel free. Jennifer and Sandy, thank you for your participation. We have two Jennifers that are. Okay. I'm going to scroll down. Okay. So with that said, we are going to go ahead and do something with this content. Okay. So I just wanted to point this out to you. This is again also available on your agenda. I'll make sure that you get this shared by the end of the session, but don't worry. I have all of these links here available for you. Okay. I'm going to go back to my deck now. I just wanted to show you on Newsela where you could find content to support you. There's a lot of places to go, but for me, we're just going to focus in on library and opinion. We're going to jump into a student experience now. So you are going to put your student hat on right now and consider these questions from the lens of one of your students. So this is my compelling question. How does air pollution affect money and people? Which is more important, money or people? Okay, so I have my compelling question, and then I have another sub-question that I just want my students to kind of keep in mind, like breaking that apart a little bit more, scaffolding a little bit more. With that said, I want to go ahead and invite you to read the highlighted portion. Share your thoughts in the chat. I'll give you, it's expedited because of time, but I'm going to give you about 40 seconds to do that, okay? Don't need to write in complete sentences, just want to have your participation. Time starts now. Okay, thank you so much, Jennifer, for your participation. I think clean energy technologies should be shared, but the people who create them should also be compensated. Okay, in keeping with our inquiry, we're going to go ahead and keep moving on. Take a look at this highlighted portion. Sound off in the chat. I'm going to give you about 40 seconds. Your goal is to read and share thoughts in the chat just like one of your students would. Go ahead and get started. Okay, friends, hoping that you were able to take a look at what I have highlighted. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for participating again. We need to value lives over pollution and profit. Thank you so much for that. And now I want you to go ahead and read that final portion, sound off. Okay, so I love how some of us even connected this to present day. So I love that connection that you made. Thank you so much for your participation. One more. Take a look at this image. How does this connect to our compelling question? How does this connect to any of the pieces of text that you were working with? Sound off in the chat. 30 seconds, go. Okay, so Sandy, I agree, since money is more instant while the effect of pollution takes time to actually see the effect, policymakers would value money first since their terms might be over when this effect on people would come later. This is just what I think, might not be correct. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing your thinking. That's what we want. We want our students to be, first, feel safe to be able to share their opinion without fear of judgment, and then number two, participate. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone that participated. So what you're going to do, it's going to be expedited because of time. I'm going to share this article in the chat with you. Let me go ahead and copy the link. And I will share this with you. You're going to go ahead, take a quick overview of this article, and you're going to just consider, how does air pollution affect money and people? Just go ahead and read that. I'm going to give us about 4.5 minutes. That's not a lot of time, but just kind of want you to get the feeling and get an experience. There were a few people that asked me some questions. I'm going to go ahead and answer that. Feel free to ignore me and mute me. Time starts now. Okay, I got a couple of questions to review how to make an annotation. To make an annotation, you simply click on text, drag, and release, and you'll activate that tool. And then you're going to share that with your students. When you do that, though, that only comes at one level. So be sure to make annotations at multiple levels, reading levels, so students have access to what you created, okay? So to delete an annotation, just simply, after you make one, you'll click on the annotation and then click delete. Friends, so Christine and Sandy are unable to access this article. You all have essentials. This should be accessible by you. So if you're, Ryan, you can't also get in. Oh goodness, okay. So we have a lot of friends unable to access this. You need to access this through Clever. Your district has you all sign in through Clever. So if you're still working, please ignore me. I'm gonna address my friends that have some challenges getting in. I'm gonna go to my initials. I'm gonna sign out. Oh, Ryan, yeah, so then you're not, I'm pretty sure you probably didn't sign in through Clever, hoping that's the case. It could also be that you signed in through Clever and we need to fix your account. So this is probably what you saw. Everyone here already has an account. Go to join. Or I'm sorry, why did I do that? My brain, my apologies. Do not click join. You're gonna go to sign in. Everybody here has an account. So if I go here, I'm just starting over from scratch, bear with me. go to sign in, and then you're going to go ahead and click Clever. Then you are going to go ahead and type in your school. Also, I went ahead and provided this on the link. So this video, we made a step-by-step video on how to log in through Clever. So I'll copy that link. It's like a 1-minute video. Anyone else having challenges? Okay, thank you, America. I appreciate that. Sandy, I would probably maybe just like start from scratch again, open up a new tab. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, so I'm hopeful that you were able to log into Newsela and read the article that I shared with you in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get back to my slide deck, and then we're going to keep moving on. So we are taking a look at how can we use Newsela for inquiry. So number one, we know that we need to identify like what is the inquiry process. The goal is to get our kids from moving to wonder to questioning. Next, we need to find content that we find relevant to our curriculum and then also our kids feel relevant to engage with. We've picked an article from the Newsela library, the opinion section. You all read it. Well, we broke it apart first. I scaffolded it first, and then you all read it. Then you were considering this compelling question: how does air pollution affect money and people? I'm going to need your participation on this end. So if you were able to log in or not, you were able to engage with this in some way by those text pieces and picture. So if you could go ahead and just share in through the chat. We're going to go ahead and collaborate here. How does this information connect to our compelling question? So with all of the text that you saw, the picture, how does that connect to our compelling question? Go ahead and share in the chat. Okay, so in the article, it's showing that companies value money. Great. Anyone else want to participate with me? How does the information that I shared with the picture and the text, what can I communicate? How does this connect to our compelling question? So different perspectives. I love that. Thank you so much. The text is evidence. I love that. Thank you. Government makes difficult decisions. I love that. Okay. Great thinking. Thank you so much. Now, in thinking, bringing this back to our students, so if our compelling question is, going back to this so everyone can see it, when it comes to air pollution, that's the article we read, our question is, how does air pollution affect money and people? So with that said, how does air pollution affect money and people? what conclusions do we hope that our students make from this article to be able to have an opinion about that? Anybody want to share? Okay, thank you so much, Christine. So there needs to be incentive. Anyone else want to share? There are different perspectives. People, like, they don't want air pollution. That's true. And this is a complex issue. Great point. So I love that overall, when we're getting our kids to evaluate information and communicate what they find, we want to make sure that they feel safe to share their opinions, and that there's like a broad overview of like, there's a level of complexity. We want them to identify like, what are both sides to this case. And so with that said, my goal for you is that you leave here and you're able to create an inquiry experience for your students. I'm going to go over again in Newsela where you might want to visit to be able to make that happen. And I'm going to show you how to make an assignment really quickly as well. So when we're creating an assignment that's going to support inquiry learning, we want to make sure that, again, we have our compelling question and that kids want to engage with it. There has to be this level of like, you're going to have to figure a side to work with, okay? And then also, when we create experiences like this, we want to make sure we leverage all of the resources available to us on Newsela. Newsela also has videos. So there's this video about climate change on Newsela, making hurricanes worse, and that can just further the support and then also adds on to the inquiry experience. They're supposed to comb through evidence. This is another piece of evidence to present to them. So let me go to Newsela again before our time is up. I know that a few of us have challenges, so I'm going to make sure that I send you some support after this session to make sure you all feel supported. And also there's information on the agenda as well. So you're going to go create an inquiry experience for your students. This was an inquiry session / introductory to Newsela session. With that said, where do you go if you want to find content? Well, really any place here you can use. The goal is that you're able to create a compelling question for students. But places that are specially crafted for you are going to be the library section. Left-hand side, you're going to go to opinion. Why is that a place you're going to want to check out? Well, because we're already going to have a question and there's going to be sides about that issue already created there for you to utilize. Okay. For instance, maybe this might be a good like inquiry. It doesn't just have to be about science. It can also be about like social emotional learning, like how do we treat others? This might be a good article to use. There's also an article here about bullying and sports that might be helpful for you as well. This is another one here as well. So you can create a compelling question like, to make it to the Hall of Fame, should you cheat? Something as simple as that. But we want our kids to have buy-in, and we also need there to be a level of academic rigor. So library, opinion section. Where else can you go? Election 2020. Left-hand side, you're going to go to policy issues. Here, you're going to be able to explore a variety of issues that are relevant to what's going on right now in the election. And students will have the ability to create their own conclusions and communicate information based on this here. If you notice this little thumbtack, we're going to have a little implementation guide to support you. But you can start as simple as taking a particular article. So I'll go ahead and take this article, for instance. You're going to click Assign to create an assignment. And then there you go. You're going to go ahead and embed instructions. You can change the title if you wish. You'll go ahead and assign it to your students, and you're going to click Assign. I know that you all or your district wants you to share assignments on Google Classroom. You might be wondering, how do I do that? Do you see this arrow? Click that arrow. When you do that, you're going to be able to go ahead and click Google Classroom. That way you can share this information in Google Classroom. I do want to let you know that Google Classroom will not store any Newsela data. So however students perform on a quiz or any action on Newsela, that you have to manually input that into Google Classroom. We will not report that. So my best advice when you create an assignment on Google Classroom, make it ungraded, put the title, instructions, and then go ahead and assign it. And it'll show up in your feed as normal. The reason why I'm saying ungraded is you're gonna have to remind your students like the grade will live on Newsela unless you wanna transfer it over to Google Classroom. And so it will show up like this. Okay, I have a few friends that would like a little bit of extra support. So I'm gonna make sure that I can provide that to you now. America, I will go ahead and put this up on your agenda after today or after our session today. I want to show you where you can go for more support because I know a few of us would love that. So right here, I'm at the top of my page. I'm going to go to Educator Center and I'm going to go to Support. And I'm going to be able to find more content to support my learning. So for instance, I'm going to be able to go ahead and have all my burning questions answered right here by going ahead and clicking. So like, how can I create an account? How do I create in a class? How do I find articles again, etc. Also, if I go back, this is the support area. If I go back, do you see my initials? I'm going to go to settings. And if I go to classes, I can go ahead and import through Clever. And then I'm gonna have, this is gonna give me like a resource on like, how do I do that? And I'll go ahead and share that in the chat for you all as well. Okay, so I'll go ahead and put this on your agenda and I'll also link the slide deck. Okay, if you have to hop off, feel free, but any further questions, I'm here to support you. I don't want you to leave confused, so let me know, okay? Thank you so much for learning with me and have the very best start to your school year. I know you guys are gonna rock it and your kids are so lucky to have you. You're so welcome, everyone. Bye, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you, Ricardo. You're so welcome. Hi, Holly. So great question. So if you go to Newsela, remember that search tab I shared with you earlier? You're going to go back there. You're going to click search. And then if you see where it says text level, you can filter to second grade. You can also go suggested for and filter to lower elementary. Click apply. And the content here will be for your young kiddos. I really love this article here. It's really cute. Very informational, but a very funny title. Holly, does that help you? Okay, yeah, so there is going to be some content, but yeah, Newsela starts at second grade and goes to 12th. So hopefully you're able to find some content to support you depending on what goal you're aiming to hit. Okay, so Millie and Ryan and Kara, I think it sounds like your district has a little bit of shuffling to do because they've been very clear with us. They want you all to log in with Clever and only share out with Google Classroom. We've even made special resources. We have a special video on the agenda just for your district to do that. So it's not working, it sounds like your district has something else they need to do. So I'll reach out to your account manager to make sure that they're supported. In the meantime, if Google is working, if you're able to get everything from Google, use that until it's fixed. Let's see, Kara and Ryan, unsure if that will work as well. But you all, if you go over to your initials when you log in, you should have essentials. That's what your district has purchased. Okay, so Kara, then you might be in the same boat as Millie. Millie said that it didn't work on Clever, but when she went to Google, it did work. So what I was saying earlier is that your district for sure is signed in through Clever, like that's a for sure. But if it's not working, then I think that they have some work to do on their end. So we'll make sure we get that fixed. If you can send me your email and school site in the chat, I'll send it over to my tech team too, so we have two eyes on it, your district and us, okay? So Millie, it looks like it's not working then through Google either. So again, if you guys could just send me your email and school site, that'd be great. Email, school site, and then full name, because I realize some of us don't have full names on our, what's it called? Zoom name, there we go. Thank you, Kara. I'm gonna go ahead and just add those links for you in your agenda. And then adding the session here. And I'm going to drop this in the chat again for everyone. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take all that information and share it with my support team. So I'm going to stop recording.